Hi everyone, I'm Peter Catlin, the librarian for Art and Art History. I'd like to give you some advice about how to do research for your museum paper for History of Asian Art. Here's the description of the assignment from your syllabus. Notice that this paper includes both your own visual observations and brief research. Because I'm your librarian, I'm only going to be talking about the research part of it. For help with the visual analysis, please talk with Professor Kim. Notice also that you'll be consulting no more than 3 different written sources as part of your research on this topic, and that you'll be citing your sources according to the Chicago Manual of Style. In this video, I will walk you through a 4-step process for doing research for this assignment. Let's start with step 1, find pictures of artworks. There are 3 options that you have for finding pictures of artworks. I will walk you through the first 2 of these options in this video. The first option is a library database called ArtStore. ArtStore looks like this. If you're searching for a particular artwork or a particular artist, you can type it in the search box in the middle of the page. However, if you just want to browse to see what's available, I recommend using the advanced search. Look at this. You can limit your search by geography. So, for example, if I just want to see artworks from East Asia, I can do that. Here are 198,234 artworks from East Asia. I can further limit them by classification. For example, if I just want to see paintings, I can see 30,482 paintings from East Asia. For each one of these items, you can click on it to view the item in full definition. And you can zoom in order to see details up close. Off on the right, you'll see information about the item, such as who created it, the title of the item, the type of work that it is, the date, and many more. So that's ArtStore, and that's your first option for finding pictures of artworks. A second option for finding pictures of artworks is a free site called Google Arts and Culture. It looks like this. This site is so large and so difficult to navigate that it's easy to get lost. One option that you have is the search box, which is up at the top right here. For example, I can search for a particular artist, and I can see works by that artist. However, you might have more luck for this assignment browsing the collection. There are several different ways to browse Google Arts and Culture. For example, you can browse by art movement, by artist, by collection, or by place. Today I'm going to demonstrate browsing by place. Here are all the places listed in Google Arts and Culture. I'm going to take China as an example. If you scroll down, you'll see that Google Arts and Culture contains 14,604 items from China. By default, they're arranged by popularity, with the most popular items showing up first. However, if you prefer, you can also browse by time, with the items arranged in chronological order. Right now we're looking at images from the 1940s in China, but I can click on an earlier time to see earlier images. Let's take this one as an example. This is called Pines and Rocks in Mount Huang. You can see it was painted by Hong Ren in 1664. If you click on the image, you can zoom in. You can zoom in quite a lot. Below the image itself is a short summary of the image. It's worth taking notes on this so that you can find words to follow up on. And you can also see the information about the item, including where the item is now. Those are the first 2 options for finding images of artworks, ArtStore and Google Arts and Culture. There's a third option, which is to look at the websites of particular museums. I'm not going to demonstrate that in this video because there are too many museums to look at all of their websites. However, I am providing you with a list from Wikipedia of museums that have large collections of Asian art. If you do decide that you want to get an image from a museum, these are some good places to start looking. So that's step 1, to find pictures of artworks. Once you've identified an artwork that you think you might want to feature in your paper, the next step is to read basic information about that artwork. One good place to go to find this kind of basic information is an encyclopedia, and I particularly recommend an encyclopedia called the Dictionary of Art. It looks like this. It's a 34-volume encyclopedia on the shelf in Simpson Library. Let's say, for example, that you've decided you want to do your project about this particular artwork, Pines and Rocks in Mount Huang. Well, you can go to the Dictionary of Art and you can look up the artist's name, and if you do, you'll see this. This is a typical encyclopedia article, like you might see in Wikipedia, for example. But, unlike Wikipedia, this encyclopedia was written by experts who have signed their articles, so that you know this is expert, trustworthy information. As you're reading through this basic information, take notes. Write down the names of important people, places, and things. You might also want to write down the names of the sources cited in the bibliography, because if those sources were good for this article, they could be good for you too. So that's step 2, getting started with a particular artwork. Let's say you've done this. Let's say that you've looked up some basic background information about your artwork, and you've written down some clues that you can follow up on. Where do you go next? Well, the next step, step 3, is to find books and articles. I recommend starting with Quest. Quest is a tool that searches both physical contents of the library and most of our electronic databases. Your experience with Quest will be different depending on whether you search for a famous artist or an obscure artist. This is what happens when you search for a famous artist. Hokusai is one of the most famous Japanese artists of all time. And when you search for Hokusai's name, you see more than 12,000 results, including more than 1,000 from peer-reviewed journals and 19 that are available in the library. You could come into the library and check these out. By contrast, this is what happens when you search for a more obscure artist. Remember this artwork? It's by an artist named Hong Ren. Now, if I type in that name into the search box, this is what I get. This is a problem. Most of these are not relevant to art history at all. If this is the situation you're in, then it's up to you to find better terms to type in the search box. In order to find better terms, look in your notes. That's what you did in step 2. You found basic information and you took notes. For example, here in the Dictionary of Art, we see that Hong Ren has several other names, including different English transliterations of his Buddhist name and also a secular name, Jiang Tao. Apologies for the mispronunciation. But, more importantly, look at the end of the Dictionary of Art article. What you'll see here is a bibliography, a list of other sources that also discuss Hong Ren. One of these is called The Compelling Image, Nature and Style in 17th Century Chinese Painting. That's a clue. You can type the name of this book into Quest to see whether we have it. Here it is, The Compelling Image by James Cahill, available for you right now in the Simpson Library stacks under the letters ND on the second floor. I want to give you one final piece of advice about Quest. It's a good idea to do both a broad search and a narrow search in Quest. A narrow search would be just the name of an artist or an artwork, narrowly focused on the thing you're researching. A broad search would be something such as Chinese art, for example, which will find broader sources such as books. Here's what this looks like. I searched for Chinese art and I found more than 1 million results. I can limit these down underneath Refine My Results on the left. I can click on Subject and More Options and choose to limit down to just Art, Chinese. This is 1,127 sources, each of which might potentially mention the particular Chinese artist that I'm studying. All I have to do is look at the book, check the index, and see if my artist is listed in the index. So that's step 3, finding books and articles. But you're not done yet. Because you're using these sources in your paper, you also have to cite these sources in your paper. For the museum paper, you're going to be citing following the Chicago Manual of Style. If you've never seen a paper in Chicago style before, I provided you a sample paper, courtesy of the Online Writing Lab at Purdue University. I urge you to take a look at this. Look for things such as page numbers, spacing, margins, footnotes. Notice that there will be footnotes at the bottoms of the pages for each source that you're citing. Also, at the end of the paper is a bibliography, where you list again all of the sources that you've used, this time in alphabetical order. The UMW libraries provide a guide to Chicago style. Follow this guide to build your citations. At the top of the page is the official Chicago Manual of Style online, which is an ebook that contains all the official instructions. I recommend that you focus on Chapter 14 of the ebook, the Notes and Bibliography section, because that's the style that you're using. The libraries have also provided short, quick guides to citing print resources and non-print resources in Chicago style. These are just lists of examples. They look like this. For example, if you're citing an edited book, you would go down to page 4, and you would see examples not only for the footnote, but also for the bibliography entry for that same item. Lastly, be aware that you don't have to type all your citations out by hand. You can use software to generate your citations for you. Here at UMW, we recommend a piece of free software called Zotero. Full instructions for using Zotero are provided on the linked page. Zotero is not compulsory, it's just recommended. Please remember, though, that if you generate your citations automatically, the citations may contain errors. It's important to proofread your citations by comparing them to the examples before you submit them to your professor. Thanks for watching. If you have questions, send me an email at pcatlin@umw.edu. I look forward to helping you.